Okie dokie. All right, page 9. The chapter is called Weaving. I have found over time that there are certain threads which we can weave in that make a profound difference in the strength and beauty of our tapestries. Likewise, there are ones that are better taken out. Many threads of your physical world and your consciousness are unknown to you. They are like threads that are a little in the darkness. You're unlikely to be totally aware of all of the factors that affect your system or the thoughts and underlying beliefs that have been creating your world of experiences. We're all the same. We all have our areas which we have good knowledge and skill, and perhaps even a certain level of mastery. And we all have areas that we're not as comfortable with and perhaps know nothing about. My suggestion to you is to be kind to yourself. Allow yourself to be gently curious of your own world, but don't be too harsh about what you don't know yet. Imagine a newborn child. Most of how this world works is new to a child, and we wouldn't expect someone so small to understand how weather is created or how magnetism works. Instead, we would encourage curiosity and the development of skills and awareness. We would teach them a little at a time, and each new awareness would be built on what had come before. They would learn to ride a bike well after learning to crawl, walk, and run. It's no different with whatever it is that you don't know yet. It will take time and will build on itself until you have some degree of mastery in that area. Somehow we think that children grow and learn so much compared to adults. This may have its truth, but you have never stopped learning, physically growing in such dramatic ways, yes, but not an end to learning and awakening. The awareness and skills you have learned as a child are part of your tapestry now. Your awareness of your body for balance, walking, climbing, the learning of language and social behavior, and even many of the background thoughts about who you are and what you are capable of are part of your tapestry. The weaving doesn't end. You are learning about new threads your whole life and reevaluating what has come before. Be patient. Imagine yourself with the same curious wonder about the world that you had as a child. The world is still vast, and you are still an explorer. Smile. Decide ahead of time that this will be a good adventure. Page 11. The thread of developing internal guidance. Where to start? There are so many places that I could just suggest you start. In the end, I've decided to start you where I did, or at least where I remember I did. In my early 20s, after studying anthropology at university, I ended up in Nelson, British Columbia, a hippie alternative town in the middle of the mountains. I loved it. I worked in a little bookstore, hiked the mountains that gently lifted and folded over the landscape, and tried all sorts of new things, from new food to new ways of thought. At that time, I was fascinated by the energy system of the body. I studied the chakra system and explored hands-on healing techniques. The training for some of it included meditation. I seemed to always be better at watching something in my head, more the guided meditations that had a little structure to them, something to do, rather than the ones that just had me paying attention to my breath. I joked that I had a vivid imagination. It wasn't as if I was transported to another realm or lost all sense of where I was at. It was more that I knew where I was and still had awareness of my body and surroundings, but I was also aware of other sensations in my body and a scene that I was involved in within my imagination. The stories had other characters and insights into my current questions. I longed for something more substantial, more obvious, something I wouldn't have a hard time questioning as real. Isn't that the way it happened for other people? You were unquestionably moved into another alternate reality, and angels talked to you, and you actually heard them in real sound waves. It didn't happen. I felt inadequate, like I was being asked to do all this without any apparent ability, which I assumed others, more gifted, had. I watched the scenes play out in my head, felt things in my body, and had new insights, but it was all inside of me and was more of a feeling, a movement rather than involving any other five senses. I was skeptical of the insights and guidance, and I was constantly aware of the harsh voice inside of me that was evaluating everything for how true or useful it was. One of my teachers told me that the skill of feeling energy and working with it was something everyone had, but it was like a muscle that never got used. What I remember most is the image she gave me. She said those skills were like a child learning something new, or like a flower opening for the first time. Under harsh criticism, the child would no longer try and therefore would never learn the skill. Likewise, in harsh weather, the flower wouldn't open the same way as when exposed to the gentle sun on a beautiful day. I doubted I could grow the skills I'd read about, but finally decided I would have to somehow trick my skeptical mind into leaving that part of my awareness alone if it was going to grow at all. I decided I would relegate it all to the realm of imagination, and I wouldn't put it under the same scrutiny as my real world, as it was just for fun and seemed to be helping me. When I no longer required my experiences in my meditations to fulfill being real in my five senses validated world, I allowed my skeptical self to take a break, and I created a space for developing new skills that would give me a whole new understanding of my body, my emotions, and my spirit. The following is what I remembered from one of the first meditations I experienced during a weekend of hands-on energy work training. We lay on the community hall floor, heavily varothaned wood marked with decades of heels dancing over its surface. It's in the evening, and the room is only lit with small candles, as we're about to do a meditation while someone plays their crystal bowls. The bowls, when played, make vibrating tones, overlapping humming as they fade in and out. I've never heard them before, but somehow they're relaxing, and I appreciate the time to not visit with everyone in the workshop. For the last few weeks, I felt like someone is watching over me. In my new internal space of imagination, relatively free of skepticism, I asked myself, if I knew who this person was, what would they look like? It's another way to trick myself into allowing space to have an answer. I tell myself I don't know in the real world. But if I did, what would such and such be? This engages my imagination. She is old. Grandmother old, and she has long gray hair and a gray woolen dress. A woven apron of many colors hangs down on her waist. Around her neck are chunky beads of turquoise, coral, and silver jewelry in designs from the East. Overall, she seems to me to be Tibetan. She's kind and smiling at me. We're just getting into the guided meditation, and we're supposed to imagine a place we feel particularly good. Pretty much we're supposed to find a natural setting that is our happy place. Easy enough. I imagine being on top of the hill there where I grew up on the prairies in Alberta. It's high enough that I can see the slight curve of the earth as the grass and fields wrap the horizon in three directions. It's pretty comfortable under my blanket on the floor, and the tones allow me to shut out everyone else in the room. I don't remember if the teacher who ran the workshop left us in our happy place for the rest of the meditation. It was quiet, or whether she was talking. It was almost 30 years ago after all. Anyway, that stayed with me. What stayed with me was that we had a quiet bit of time to ourselves in this place, and so I explored. I had started referring to the old Tibetan lady as Grandma. She seemed to fit the title, and so I thought of her that way. I was in my happy prairie place, and decided to fly around. After all, it was my imagination. I could do anything. I became a red hawk, and after flying around in my prairie landscape for a few minutes, I felt like she was calling me. I soared high above the clouds and imagined following her voice. I flew around the globe and descended on the other side of the world, and as I broke through the clouds high in the Himalayan mountains, I turned pure white. The mountains were sharp and majestic. It was a valley with a lake that ran the length of it. At the far end was what I imagined to be a Tibetan temple settled halfway up the mountainside, and at the other end of the lake was a small earthen house. I landed on the stone bench in front of the temple overlooking the lake. I could feel the cold air and the cold stone. Everything seemed punctuated somehow in crisp, defined clarity, the feeling of the air when you hike high in the mountains. Grandma was next to me on the bench. She was looking out over the lake. This is the place of your soul. You're going to spend a lot of time here. And so it began for me. It's been almost 30 years since I first met Grandma. For most of that time, I just told people that I meditated. I didn't know how to describe it, and when I did venture to say something, no one seemed to have any reference to what I was experiencing. I thought I was just on my own quirky path, and I was okay with it. It worked for me. My guides knew what I needed to work on or let go of. They knew where I felt damaged or stuck. Over time, I had so many positive, life-changing experiences with them. that I knew they loved me in a way that seemed beyond this life. In the last few years, I became aware of shamanic journeying. When I just heard it described and participated in some online classes, I realized I do this all the time. There are a whole bunch of people that do this, and traditions around the world that participate in this vast universe and their own soul's development in a way similar to me. It was comforting and a relief to realize it was a thing. I laughed. All of those years being isolated, just doing what I was doing and listening as best I could. I asked myself, why hadn't I found this at the start? I could have immersed myself in the shamanic tradition of the Celts or one of the peoples of the Andes. After reflecting, I think this was all as it was for many reasons. I was not influenced by what I should or shouldn't do. There were no prescriptions for me, no beliefs or references that influenced how I was to proceed. This meant I kept it simple and evaluated it basically in reference to what I felt was truly sourced in love. It was hard in one way to be on my own, but it forced me to develop my clarity, my discernment, and my awareness of my own self. It forced me to hone my skills in working with guides that were not seen. I had to learn to be self-validated and to know what was real for me and trust that feeling. When I found my own truths, they were because I had an experience internally that came with a deep feeling instead of just information that someone passed on intellectually. It was always unexpected for me, and I just found my way one step at a time. It gave me the experience that the skill of working with guides is in everyone. You don't have to be born to a certain group. You don't need to wait for a teacher or a tradition. You do not need permission to work with guides. They are part of your larger family of light and part of this immense universe, and they are here for every person. You are their family, and they did not leave you on your own. I had no teacher that was visible to me to help me to develop my awareness with guides. This book is my offering to you to encourage and support you in developing these skills and beautiful relationships. You can do it. It is woven in you as part of this larger life. You will have your own guides. Is it true? Does it matter? What can you believe in an inner world of subtleties where your mind seems to be both vast and influenced by your current beliefs, insecurities, and fears? Here is the truth. You are the weaver of your own tapestry, and you will need to learn the skills to be self-guided because only you live in the totality of your creation, and only you can change many of the threads. You will need help along the way, both from people you can physically touch to the divine love that is ever present. This divine love may take the form of an angel, a spirit guide, a holy saint, or an animal spirit, to name only a few, but you will need to be able to evaluate this guidance in a way that is meaningful and useful to your life now. The guidance that comes in forms such as in meditation or journeying is not meant to entice you to live in a world of imagined spiritual bliss where you can escape this reality on earth. Guidance is meant to help you live here more. It is meant to open your heart and your awareness to the unity and beauty that is already here and to inspire you to live your gifts in full expression. Having said this, you need to develop an internal compass to know what guidance is worthy of your attention. The following is my criteria for whether I will accept the messages I receive. Let's say you're totally new to speaking to the divine in the form you imagine. Guides, saints, angels, animal spirits, etc. It's okay if it feels uncomfortable. It's new. You're stretching new muscles and building new skills. First, assume you can do it. You are made as part of the greater life force, and you have never been removed from that life force. That life force has incredible knowledge and wisdom, and you are part of it. Indeed, you are it. A tiny drop of water out of the large cosmic ocean, but still made of the same water. So relax, and know that you are built with the abilities to be aware of the greater divine force as it is as an inherent part of being alive. It may take a while to get the knack of it, but then walking took a while too. Let's say you've asked an angel for help, and you're imagining what they might say. Easy enough. It's like daydreaming, but how do you know if you should listen? What if your ego and your internal agendas based on fear are warping what you can imagine? Here's how I sort it out. I ask myself, Does this message make me feel fearful, worried, or somehow less than I am? Is this message full of criticism? Does it make me feel uncomfortable? This is not the uncomfortable that people refer to when they are trying new things, like out of your comfort zone. This uncomfortable feels kind of just wrong, or like you just shrunk somehow, or maybe feel shameful. Does it contain hurtful or mean words towards myself or others? Do these words reflect a belief in the worst in myself or others? If the answer to any of this is yes, then I assume it's coming from my judgmental, critical, and often fearful internal voice, and I garbage it. I assume it is my fearful voice, or the fearful voice of mass consciousness, the beliefs, perspectives, and emotions of those in the culture around me, which I have allowed in my system because of conditioning, media, etc. For me, true guidance from the divine, which we've established is the most loving force imaginable, does this. Affirms that the core of my belief, of my being, is pure divine love. A love that is always worthy of receiving. More love and worthy of renewal and healing. Supports and acknowledges divine source of all beings. Is unconditionally loving, even if the message points out something which I may need to look at in my life or myself that's not so loving. The core energy and resonance is love for me. Makes me feel comfortable and safe. Is patient and gentle, since there is no judgment of my worth on a soul level. There is no rush, no question of acceptance or worthiness, because we are inherently worthy of divine grace and love by our very existence. And therefore there's no anxiety about getting it right or not getting it soon enough. It has an underlying acknowledgement of divine timing, flow, and natural progression. Is full of kindness for all life, exemplifies the principles of harmlessness. This means true divine guidance won't ever suggest or encourage harm to self or others. Never encourages putting myself either below or above anyone else in inherent worth or value. If these words I imagine the angel or guide saying fits this criteria, then I allow myself to contemplate the message and to take it more to heart. Your body can also discern properly. Pay attention. Does my body relax with this message, or does it tighten, shrink away, or squirm? Another way to evaluate messages is to ask, if I believe this guidance, does it encourage me to be more loving, kind, and aware, or does it encourage harm to myself or others? Does it foster the growth of my sovereignty in creating and choosing my own life? Does it encourage or discourage a victim mindset, disempowering or self-limiting belief? Does this guidance help me develop responsibility and therefore ability to make healthy choices and create a fulfilling life? Does it make me feel more whole and more connected to the rest of life, or does it make me feel more separated? Do I feel more judgmental, righteous, or controlling towards myself or others, or less? Does it encourage me to develop my own inner source of validation, inner wisdom and knowing, or does it undermine or discount this growth? When you ask yourself these questions, it will be easy to see whether or not to accept the messages. If it is false guidance which shuts down your growth and compassion and creates more judgment and separation from self and others, then it's most likely your own negative ego's voice based on the messages of mass consciousness, ancestral wounds, trauma, or fear. It's up to you to sort out where these messages come from and to consciously choose whether you are in alignment with them or not. You always have the choice. What you allow as your truth is up to you. This applies to not just the messages you feel you received as guidance, but to all of the background messages that play in your head. Are these messages truly in alignment with the source of love within you? To be honest, initially, your negative ego, with all of its associated issues, distorted perceptions, and woundings, will be potentially messing up the communication lines frequently. Don't worry, this is just part of sorting it all out and developing skills of discernment. If you think you heard something, but it sounds a lot like your pain talking or your ego's voice, it probably is. My suggestion is to make discernment of what you perceive as messages and energies an absolute clear line. Garbage any message or thought that is not in alignment with loving source. In the beginning, I thought that even if this guidance wasn't real in my physical world, this all was still good criteria. I thought that the worst that would happen was that I would listen to my own most loving thoughts and filter out my own internal voices of fear. It seemed a good way to start. My imagination allowed me to listen more to what was happening inside of me. I've learned over the years, however, imagination is truly the telephone line to the divine. It is part of our being that can bridge our five-sense world, and the world that is also real but harder to see. It is a creative sense in us that allows us to experience the interconnectedness of all life and feel it deeply. When your ego is really getting in the way, my suggestion is to imagine your sacred space again and do the first breath song, as we will discuss in the following chapters. Over time, I learned that there were other loving voices that came through to me in meditation that definitely weren't from me. It took me a few years to be okay with that, so don't be in a rush and try to cut yourself some slack. Keep evaluating the messages with the above thoughts in mind, and you will be all right. Be okay with being skeptical and allow yourself to still have guidance, relegated to the domain of the imagination. The proof is in the pudding. As with every thread I offer you throughout this book, try it out and see what's useful. Does it serve you in creating a wonderful life? If it does, keep it. If not, don't worry about it and try something else. You are your own weaver, and you get to decide based on what works for you. Think of it this way: I'm offering you a bunch of colored threads or paint, but you decide what you will use in your own masterpiece. Before you jump in, know that your guides are not here as your own personal psychics or fortune tellers. They cannot tell the future, or at least if they could, they generally won't say. They are here with you to help you and to ask you questions to facilitate becoming clearer, finding balance, and ultimately healing. They help you to feel out what's really true for you, and to guide you in greater levels of self-awareness. Their focus is on you and your experiences of the events in your life. They're not here to chit-chat on the life path of others around you. They focus on your path, your emotions, your thoughts, and your movements in the world. Sometimes guides show you scenes or take you on an internal journey to show you a truth of your own experience, and even a truth of how the greater love moves. Sometimes they just sit and hold your hand and show you a way to be compassionate for the parts of yourself that were left in the darkness. They never give up on us. They are unwavering in their knowing and seeing of what is eternal and good in us. They ask things like, how does that make you feel? Where do you remember that same feeling in the past? What do you really need? And is that really love? Is that really true for you? Let's look at it closer. They say things like, I love you. You can figure this out. Keep going. You're supported. I know you can't see it yet, but you are beautiful and more magnificent than you know. You are worthy of being treated well. Basically, they speak what love would say. Learning to work with guides is a delicate balance of watching, feeling, and interacting, but not letting your mind run the show and force the scene to look a certain way or hear what your mind wants to validate. Your discernment will get better over time as you allow your interaction with your guides to flow without your personal agenda. Over time, you'll get a feel for when your ego is messing things up. You'll feel when your mind jumps ahead of the image and says what you expect to hear or just really want to hear. When the ego mind gets involved, it feels like your ego just patted itself on the back and wants then to quickly leave, coveting its validation. It sounds like an ego. When you're in a clear zone, it feels seamless, arising naturally and often surprising you. It feels genuine and invokes real feelings. Although all is sourced in divine love, Mother God, through the choices of free will, not all beings in the universe are aligned with the sovereignty of all beings. We know this in our 3D world. Not all people are aligned with the most healthy and loving outcomes for others. The universe is vast, and there is much more that exists that is unseen by us compared to that which is seen. You are endeavoring to develop your skills and your consciousness to perceive a much wider aperture of the larger life. You are inherently built for this, and for connecting with your light families and guides. It can be intimidating, but you're just going to go a little at a time. You must know now that everything unseen is not necessarily in alignment with Source Love, which embodies the harmonious flow and loving support for all creation. This is partly why you must, over time, learn discernment and develop being clear. Learn discernment, yes. Be brave. The ability is a natural progression of awareness. Just commit to learning discernment and being clear. This ability is a natural progression of awareness. Just commit to learning discernment. I messed up there. Let me back up a bit. This ability is a natural progression of awareness. Just commit to learning discernment and being clear. Remember, the Great Spirit and your light families are supporting you in gradual learning and growing in love so that you can thrive. As long as you always discern whether the feeling of your guides and your messages are truly loving, you'll be fine. You cannot be misled into non-loving action if you're diligent in looking for the truth and in evaluating experiences with this chapter in mind. You are a sovereign being, and you are the one who gets to decide and take action. Your alignment in true love protects you from negative interference, whether from your own ego or another's energy. It is the divine sieve that catches all disharmony while still allowing divine truth, love, and wisdom to flow through. This active embodiment of love emanates from your heart and surrounds and protects you. The more you clear your own field of lower energy resonances of negative ego, such as self-aggrandizing or belittling thoughts, fear, shame, guilt, and victimhood, or victimizer roles, the less influence any other being who is promoting these emotions will have on you, whether seen or unseen. This is one of the big projects you are here to do, to work on clearing that which is not true love from your light body and returning it back to harmonious, life-supporting flows. Your spirit guides are lined up to help you. We're also going to talk in the following chapters about setting up your internal space and aligning in your column of light, which will add more layers of protection and clarity in your field so that you are always in a safe space when doing your eternal work. Finally, in reference to the mind's constant chatter, lighten up and don't believe all the things you tell yourself. I am not my thoughts, and neither are you. Actually, thoughts are in the way of you experiencing the vast being that you are. You have a thought for everything and every moment. Your thoughts narrate every second into a story that with you as the main character. It may seem like you may not even exist without this constant streaming, judging narrative, but you do. Your thoughts are only a very small part of you which has gotten all of your attention. You are a vast being, able to feel and sense information and energy that is within you and which flows through the universe. You are built much bigger than you imagine in your tiny thoughts. The settled, interconnected, aware love that you are is experienced more and more as you see clearly that you are not your thoughts. You can stop constantly narrating, and when you find you are still talking to yourself, you can work on gently settling the thoughts down as you view and feel what is really going on in and around you. I remember when I became aware of this, I found myself often internally saying, just stop talking. And I would catch myself. I endeavored to try to train myself, especially in the midst of controlling or unhealthy thoughts or emotions, almost as if I was training a puppy. No talking. That's talking. No story. No. Until I laughed at my own self. Luckily, this still worked to unhinge my absolute belief in the truth of what I was saying to myself. It all seemed much lighter and more made up by then, which gave me a little more room to breathe and see the moment in a bigger perspective. That was the end of that chapter.